Hey people, it's Niall Stokey. This is from the New York Times. Wrongly accused by an algorithm in what may be the first known case of its kind, a faulty facial recognition match led to a Michigan man's arrest for a crime he did not commit. On a Thursday afternoon in January, Robert Julian Borchak Williams was in his office at an automotive supply company when he got a call from the Detroit Police Department telling him to come to the station to be arrested. He thought at first it was a prank. An hour later, when he pulled into his driveway in a quiet subdivision in Farmington Hills, Michigan, a police car pulled up behind, blocking him in. Two officers got out and handcuffed Mr. Williams on his front lawn in front of his wife and two young daughters who were distraught. The police wouldn't say why he was being arrested, only showing him a piece of paper with his photo and words, felony warrant and larceny. His wife, Melissa, asked where he was being taken. Google it, she recalls an officer replying. The police drove Mr. Williams to a detention center. He had his mugshot, fingerprints, and DNA taken and was held overnight. Around noon on Friday, two detectives took him to an interrogation room and placed 3 pieces of paper on the table face down. When's the last time you went to a Shinola store? One of the detectives said in Mr. Williams' recollection. Shinola is an upscale boutique that sells watches, bicycles, and leather goods in the trendy midtown neighborhood of Detroit. Mr. Williams said he and his wife had checked it out when the store first opened in 2014. The detective turned over the first piece of paper. It was a still image from a surveillance video showing a heavy-set man dressed in black wearing a red St. Louis Cardinals cap standing in front of a watch display. 5 timepieces worth $3,800 were shoplifted. Is this you? Asked the detective. The second piece of paper was a close-up. The photo was blurry, but it was clearly not Mr. Williams. He picked up the image and held it next to his face. No, this is not me, Mr. Williams said. You think all black men look alike? Mr. Williams knew that he had not committed the crime in question. What he could not have known as he sat in the interrogation room is that his case may be the first known account of an American being wrongfully arrested based on a fraud match from a facial recognition algorithm, according to experts on technology and the law. A faulty system. A nationwide debate is raging about racism in law enforcement. Across the country, millions are protesting. Not just the actions of individual officers, but bias in the system is used to surveil communities and identify people for prosecution. Facial recognition systems have been used by police forces for more than 2 decades. Recent studies by MIT and the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, have found that while the technology works relatively well on white men, the results are far less accurate for other demographics, in part because of a lack of diversity in the images used to develop the underlying databases. Last year, during a public hearing about the use of facial recognition in Detroit, an assistant police chief was among those who raised concerns on the question of false positives that is absolutely factual, and is well documented. James White said, so that concerns me as an African American male. I think that might have been the guy who got dragged out because he protested against it. Possibly. And let's keep going. This month, Amazon, Microsoft, and IBM announced they would stop or pause their facial recognition offerings for law enforcement. The gestures were largely symbolic given the companies are not big players in the industry. The technology police department's use is supplied by companies that aren't household names such as Vigilant Solutions, Cognitech, NEC, Rank 1 Computing, and Clearview AI. Claire Garvey, just for some people who are interested in investing, I'll leave the article there and I already said them, so you can look them up if you're interested in investing because this technology is obviously going to become much bigger soon. Claire Garvey, a lawyer at Georgetown University Center on Privacy and Technology, which has written about problems with the government's use of facial recognition, she argues that low-quality search images, such as a still image from a grainy surveillance video, should be banned, and the system currently in use should be tested rigorously for accuracy and bias. There are mediocre algorithms and there are good ones, and law enforcement should only buy the good ones, Ms. Garvey said. About Mr. Williams' experience in Michigan, she added, I strongly suspect this is not the first case to misidentify someone to arrest them for a crime they didn't commit. This is just the first time we know about it. In a perpetual lineup, Mr. Williams' case combines slow technology with poor police work, illustrating how facial recognition can go awry. The Shinola shoplifting occurred in October 2018. Catherine Johnston, investigator of Mackinac Partners, a loss prevention firm, reviewed the store's surveillance video and sent a copy to Detroit police, according to the report. 5 months later, in March 2019, Jennifer Colson, a digital image examiner for the Michigan State Police, uploaded a probe image, a still from the video showing the man in the Cardinals cap, to the state's facial recognition database. The system would have mapped the man's face and searched for similar ones in a collection of 49 million photos. The state's technology is supplied for $5.5 million by a company called DataWorks Plus. Founded in South Carolina in 2000, the company first offered a mugshot management software, said Todd Pastorini, a general manager. In 2005, the firm began to expand the product, adding facial recognition tools developed by outside vendors. When one of the subcontractors developed an algorithm for recognizing faces, DataWorks attempted to judge its effectiveness by running searches using low-quality images of individuals it knows are present in the system. We've tested a lot of garbage out there, Mr. Pastorini said. These checks, he added, are not scientific. DataWorks does not formally measure the system's accuracy or bias. We become a pseudo-expert in the technology, Mr. Pastorini said. In Michigan, the DataWorks software used by the state police incorporates components developed by the Japanese tech giant NEC and by Rank 1 Computing based in Colorado, according to Mr. Pastorini and a state police spokeswoman. In 2019, algorithms from both companies were included in a federal study over 100 facial recognition systems that they found they were biased, falsely identifying African American Asian faces 10 times to 100 times more than Caucasian faces. Rank 1's chief executive Brandon Clare said the company had developed a new algorithm for NIST to review that tightens the differences in accuracy between different demographic cohorts. After Ms. Colson of the state police ran a search of the probe image, the system would have provided a row of results generated by NEC and a row from Rank 1 along with confidence scores. Mr. Williams' driver's license photo was among the matches. Ms. Colson sent it to Detroit Police as an investigative lead report. This document is not positive identification, the file says in bold capital letters at the top. It's an investigative lead only and is not probable cause for arrest. This is what technology providers and law enforcement always emphasize when defending facial recognition. It's only supposed to be a clue in the case, not a smoking gun. Before Mr. Williams, investigators might have sought other evidence that he committed the theft, such as eyewitness testimony, location data from his phone, or proof that he owned the clothing that the suspect was wearing. In this case, however, according to the Detroit police reports, the investigators simply concluded Mr. Williams' picture in a six-pack photo lineup they created and showed to Miss Johnston, Shinoda's loss prevention contractor, and she identified him. Miss Johnston declined to comment. I guess the computer got it wrong. Miss Pastorini was taken aback when the process was described to him. It sounds thin all the way around, he said. Mr. Clare of Rank 1 found fault with Miss Johnston's role in the process. I'm not sure if this qualifies them as an eyewitness or gives them experience any more weight than other persons who may have viewed the same video after the fact, he said. John Wise, a spokesman for NEC, said, a match using facial recognition alone is not a means for positive identification. The Friday night that Mr. Williams sat in a Detroit police interrogation room was the day before his 42nd birthday. That morning, his wife emailed his boss to say he would miss work because of a family emergency. It broke his 4-year record of perfect attendance. In Mr. Williams' recollection, after he held the surveillance video still next to his face, the two detectives leaned back in their chairs and looked at one another. One detective seemed tragic and said to his partner, I guess the computer got it wrong. They turned over a third piece of paper, which was another photo of the man from the Shinoda store next to Mr. Williams' driver's license. Mr. Williams again pointed out they were not the same person. Mr. Williams asked if he was free to go. Unfortunately not, one detective said. Mr. Williams was kept in custody until that evening, 30 hours after being arrested, and released on a $1,000 personal bond. He waited outside in the rain for 30 minutes until his wife could pick him up. When she got home at 10 p.m., his 5-year-old daughter was still awake. She said she was waiting for him because he had said while being arrested that he'd be right back. She has since taken to playing cops and robbers and accused her father of stealing things, insisting on locking him up in the living room. Great. Now the family's traumatized. They should sue them for everything they've got. The Williams family contacted defense attorneys, most of whom they assumed Mr. Williams was guilty of the crime, and quoted prices of around $7,000 to represent him. Ms. Williams, a real estate marketing director and food blogger, also tweeted at the American Civil Liberties Union of Michigan, which took an immediate interest. We've been actively trying to sound the alarm bells around facial recognition, both as a threat to privacy when it works and a racist threat to everyone when it doesn't, said Phil Mayer, an attorney at the organization. We know these stories are out there, but they're hard to hear about because people don't usually realize they've been victims of a bad facial recognition search. 2 weeks after his arrest, Mr. Williams took a vacation day to appear in a Wayne County court for an arraignment. When the case was called, the prosecutor moved to dismiss without prejudice, meaning Mr. Williams could later be charged again. Maria Miller, a spokeswoman for the prosecutor, said a second witness had been at a store in 2018 when a shoplifting had occurred, but had not been asked to look at a photo lineup. If the individual makes an identification in the future, she said, the officer will decide whether to issue charges. A Detroit police spokeswoman, Nicole Kirkwood, said that for now, the department accepts the prosecutor's decision to dismiss the case. She also said the department updated its facial recognition policy in July 2019, so it is only used to investigate violent crimes. But are they still using the same premise of having one person look at a photo on a camera and then saying, well, that obviously works? It doesn't matter what the criteria is they've used to use the facial recognition if they're still using a poor judgment and and procedure when they do it. The department, she said in another statement, does not make arrests based solely on facial recognition. Actually, they did. The investigator reviewed video, interviewed witness. No, that was not a witness. That person did not see the theft. They saw a camera. Any person could, by that definition, could be a witness. People like you, the listener, could be a witness under that criteria. That's not what we decide. the common standard of being a witness, i.e., someone who saw it themselves. On Wednesday, the ACLU of Michigan filed a complaint with the city asking for an absolute dismissal of the case, an apology, and the removal of Mr. Williams' information from Detroit's criminal databases. The Detroit Police Department should stop using facial recognition and technology as an investigative tool. Mr. Mayor wrote in the complaint, adding, as the facts of Mr. Williams' case prove, both the technology is flawed and DPD investigators are not competent in making use of such technology. Mr. Williams' lawyer, Victoria Burton Harris, said that her client is lucky despite what he went through. He is alive, Mr. Burton Harris said. He's a very large man. My experience has been as a defense attorney. When officers interact with very large men, very large black men, they immediately act out of fear. They don't know how to de-escalate the situation. Actually, that's a lie. They know how to, they choose not to. We've seen plenty of footage of them fighting with people armed with guns, attacking them, and those people have lived to tell the tale. They choose not to de-escalate. It was humiliating. Mr. Williams and his wife have not talked to their neighbors about what happened. They wonder whether they need to put their daughters into therapy. I would advise doing so. It seems they're traumatized. Mr. Williams' boss advised him not to tell anyone at work. My mother doesn't know about it. It's not something I'm proud of, Mr. Williams said. It's humiliating. He has since figured out what he was doing the evening the shoplifting occurred. He was driving home from work and had posted a video to his private Instagram because the song he loved, Come On, 1983's We Are One by Maze and Frankie Beverly. The lyrics go, I can't understand why we treat each other in this way, taking up time with the silly games we play. He had an alibi, had the Detroit police check for one. Well, I want to say this. To me, this isn't surprising. If you've ever read the new Jim Crow, you'll see that just like the old laws, like the drug laws, they were created not to prosecute people based on the crimes they committed, but simply to create a pretext to arrest people. So they've adopted this facial recognition to say, well, we're not racist. The computers did it, and this is a way to sweep people up and arrest them and screw with their lives. This technology should be scrapped immediately. It's obviously not fit for purpose, and the people using it are obviously not competent or professional enough to administer it properly. Please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, I'll leave my GoFundMe in the description. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I'll leave it there as well. I'll leave this and several other sources in the description so you can read them. Peace.